warm welcome for everybody tuning in at home, also for our public here and also speakers here in Pakhuis de Zwijger, Amsterdam. Amsterdam, where a beautiful event will happen on the 18th and the 21st from September. Glue, Connected by Design. What is that? That means that Amsterdam can be visited on a bike, just by walking towards one hidden gem, towards the other one, where you can find all different kinds of exhibitions regarding design, but also more the arty projects, where it's also about crafts, where it's also about some meaningful themes, because of course nowadays the creative industry is also working very hard towards very futuristic perspectives. As part of Glue, Connected by Design, they invited 5 external curators to really find out the real hidden gems in our community. And today actually is the final episode of Alternatives from the Unexpected, where we can see a sneak preview of these curated sticky participants. My name is Marcia Simon. I want to welcome you all, first of all, to this final episode. I'm very happy that we are all here. And I find it also very important that today is quite an interesting topic. Because nowadays, as I said, designers are being asked to work on quite some hard topics, some complex issues. And that involves a lot of collaboration, a lot of community work, also doing a lot of research, not only being an artist or a designer, also being indeed a scientist almost, or somebody like a social worker. And what does that actually mean? How does that work? What can you do to actually make that extra step and to create a different future perspective that we're all looking forward to? Because who in here, just raise your hands because we have a nice audience here, finds it quite difficult times every now and then, this geopolitical landscape. Yeah, right? It can be quite confusing and depressing. But tonight, we're going to listen to stories of people who give a damn and also know how to make a difference. So today, we will talk to Rosa Smits, we will talk to Jeffrey Heiligers, we will also talk to Lamiae El Hajjaji, and first, they represent 13 multidisciplinary people coming from art direction, teaching, to creative coaching, also photography, art in general, to creative strategy even, and psychotherapy. Because since 2016, together they collaborate to center creativity, empathy, and vulnerability in addressing mental health. Please, a warm welcome for Kristel Frich and Denise Admiraal from Arthood Collective. Welcome. We have Denise here, and there we have Kristel on that side. Kristel, we talked to each other before on the phone, and you said, well, 2016, maybe officially it's 2018, but actually it started already before because we are doing something that's really coming from our own personal experience, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think it's hard to really put a finger on it because we feel like in 2016 we planted the seed, but like we mentioned, the projects really kicked off in 2018 and 19. But all those years ahead, we sat down a lot. We marched almost during every protest in the city. We learned a lot from other people as well. And we explored a little bit also why we felt that urge to connect in that way and how to make sure that to get sort of a purpose or a goal, 2 years later in 2018, we chose for mental health as an overall topic, which we felt like in an urgent situation, it doesn't matter if you're talking about racism or climate, your well-being is reacting to that. So it's very universal to have that as a general topic, but also in the urgency of that COVID came afterwards. And then we started more in concept building with more people than we were before, because you mentioned 13, but we started with 4. So I think it's sort of like, we have this timeline of growth.
We even were with 30 or so, or 50 during COVID times in a sort of online community.
Yeah, we had we had a WhatsApp group. We were 70 people in the WhatsApp group even. So it's sort of like goes like this, and it's very, fluid, but in the core, yes, the key value is to try to keep connecting mental health to creativity, and it can be in all forms.
Yeah. So it's very good that you actually sketch that scope for us. I mean, I think if people from your generation are listening, a lot of activism, of course, going on, and many things going on in the world. And I think it's not only the generation, like the Generation X or whatever generation you want to call it, is being affected mentally, but COVID came after that. You already choose. Does that mean that you looked ahead already? Were you really in line with what was going on around you in society?
No, we were all sort of like experts within a process that had to do with mental health as well.
Okay.
That's why we chose that in general, because we felt like there was not enough advocacy for dealing with certain diagnoses or prognosis or the stigma on talking about it in general.
Okay.
So the urge was already there before COVID, but COVID made the extra push for us to develop these projects that were more in depth, because that's when the urgency collectively grew, I think, for the world as well. Yeah.
And when you do a little research on Arthood Collective, you see many projects. They have exhibitions, but you also have art therapy sessions. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on what you do during art therapy sessions?
Yeah, so mostly we work together with creative coaches. They have an expert in a certain, for instance, writing or poetry or painting. And we come together and we start with a meditation, for instance. And then it's really up to the teacher to, to sort of...
to elevate it. We give them, we have a format, and we give the format to the teacher, which is also a creative or from one of the disciplinaries that she talked about. And we ask them to fill in that format and make it their own. So it's also very... It has guidelines, but we also want the creative person to be able to express what they went through, to reflect with the group that are present during this session as well.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly not about getting rid of certain emotions or certain feelings, but it's really just expressing them in a different way.
So you have a format. You created that one together. You developed one. Mm-hmm. You have a group of people around you who can host these kinds of sessions. And then who actually comes to these kinds of sessions? Is it everybody? Can everybody come? Or is it focused on...
I do. I have been a few times.
You have been there?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's for everyone. I think you're seeing all the images on the background as well. It's from... It's young people. It can be 14 years old. It can be someone... We had someone that was 53 years old. She said, am I still a young adult because I feel like one? I think it's just very important that they come to connect. So it's everyone. But I think depending on the topic and depending on the craft that we're doing, we get different groups of people in. Some people really love poetry and they see that it's connected to art therapy and they come because that's what they already do. And some people, they've never done it before and they're like, this is maybe what I need to step out of my bubble and feel more uncomfortable, for example. But we also have people who come and only sit and listen and don't participate at all. But for them, the biggest step was just arriving.
Come.
So we also work with, for example, therapists or other people within the field of sort of medical care as well, so that they also feel safe if they would have a panic attack or something similar, that it's not us that are facilitating that. There's always someone that has the experience to make sure somebody feels safe during a session.
Yeah, and we started, of course, in COVID times. And back then it was a lockdown, so you had to have this 1.5 meter distance. But then we hosted these sessions. And that was, for many people, very important to really have a physical space to come to and to sort of, express what is bothering you or what's on your mind and connect with other people mostly that experience sort of the same. So it's, really about recognition.
And in what kind of spaces do you do this? Are these safe spaces where nobody really enters, or is it in musea?
So it was firstly in OBA.
Okay.
Yeah, so we collaborated with the OBA.
Yeah.
And now it's basically...
OBA for the people
OBA is the Library of Amsterdam.
Public library.
Public library.
No, it's a range of a safe space could be everywhere. It depends on how you curate it, but we scale it now. So why I think she mentions OBA is because this is when it was really like a small group of people, 8 to 15 people, 2.5 hours. This was the only thing they could do every second week because there was nothing else. We couldn't go outside. And this is why we value these sessions so much. But yes, we've also done it in a more interactive version where it's 100 to 500 people passing by and we get a glimpse of 10 minutes of their time. So this is the scale that we want to plant and seed it everywhere we can. So this is where the growth lies. We are always looking at possibilities to plant it somewhere, but the core is in the art therapy sessions that are more smaller and more in depth. Yeah.
So during Glue in September, there will also be art therapy sessions, or?
Well, we're now exploring a little bit the options, but yes, we're definitely looking at something more interactive that can happen. Yeah. We'll also show something totally new but recycled new, and we would love to connect it with bringing our community in and showing what we can do. Yeah.
And you will be on the ring. Right?
Yeah.
Because Amsterdam 750 years. Everybody wants to go to the ring party. All of my friends and neighbors are very disappointed that they didn't get their tickets.
We don't have tickets.
You don't have tickets. They don't have tickets. People don't try to call Arthood Collective, but you will be there.
Yes, we are now. Today and tomorrow, we're in conversation to finalize the concept. Yep. But yes, we will do, like I just mentioned, a session where it's, well, I think a lot of people, we asked today, so can you give an estimation about for how many people that is? And they're like, oh, no, we can't. We're like, all right.
Yeah, so it can be 200, it can be 500.
Yeah, we don't know. But this is also, again, for us then a good teaching moment to see if we can scale beyond our limits, maybe.
But of course, it's very different than a real art therapy session.
Yeah,
because you cannot go in depth. It's more like a very short amount of time that you can sort of activate something. Yeah, basically.
We said if you want to stay 10 minutes, you can. If you want to stay for an hour, you can. This is where we try to sort of facilitate the right. This is an example where we made a plan where you can come and answer a question during an installation, or you go inside the installation and you're there for a full hour. So it's, we're exploring it, but we're very excited that we have to do this in 1.5 weeks.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity, and I mean, to bring people together, not only to collaborate from different disciplines like you do within your collective, is also a craft to bring people together from all kinds of different backgrounds, not knowing how many will be there.
Yeah, that's really Kristel.
Yeah, let's dive into it, Kristel. Let's dive into that. First of all, within the collective, you have different disciplines.
Yes.
Well, somebody like a psychotherapist has a totally different knowledge source, has a totally different language, also has a different purpose. And then comes in the artist who wants to, be free and then do something strange, or how do you bring those people together?
Well, I think I'm sort of the gray area. I did an art school. I practice it. I've been a dancer. I know how a creative person thinks and expresses and moves almost. And then I worked in corporate as well. So I think there's also me knowing a certain language, or that. Preventing time or acknowledging time in a certain way, letting our team know we don't have 5 hours or 3 days to brainstorm. It needs to be 1 hour, and everybody's wishes can be involved, for example. So it really depends on the balance here. This is why I call it a gray area. Sometimes when we work for someone or we get the opportunity to create a concept, is it our own concept or is it a concept for somebody else? This is where the fine line is, where we sort of say, okay, we need one therapist and one creative coach. Okay. Where do we feel like there's a good collaboration of them working together? We decide that.
Yeah, it's also
a little bit because it needs. Yeah, it's personal, but we also have different disciplinaries. So this means that if someone is really good in writing, we will not ask somebody else that's not good in writing. So I also try to get to know everyone as much as I can within the collective, to make sure that if there's opportunities for them that come through us, that we provide it for them. Yeah.
Well, as the gray area, she's talking about it very calmly.
Yeah.
When do you ever see her frustrated, I don't know how to do this, or Maybe you can.
Well, I think we're often frustrated as well.
Can you share an experience that you feel it's not working?
That's a tough question, to be honest. I think it always works out, but it's just sometimes difficult to get there, mostly because we do this as a non-profit organization. Yeah. So it's really something that we do, from our hearts. Kristel's working full-time, I'm working full-time, part-time, sort of, and people in our collective also have jobs. So in the organizational way, it's sometimes difficult to really manage, and also regarding expectations and certain roles. Yeah. It's not always clear, like, where the roles, who is in what role, and sometimes people can be very involved, and sometimes people are busy themselves. So that's
They need to be very clear. So when I pitch something in the group, somebody can text me privately saying, I cannot work on this because I have XYZ, and then I don't include this person at all. So there's also this gray area, which I call it again, as in there's no must. If somebody's not able to, somebody else will get the job and make sure it happens. But I think the frustration lies mostly, what we talk about a lot is, yes, we're non-profit, and every time we get the opportunity to, where there is profit, we spend it again on the non-profit. So it never has a value or a target, which sometimes can be frustrating because a lot of, and I think I talk for everyone a little bit, that a lot of external platforms or companies think that, they miscalculate our value. This is where the frustration also lies a lot.
Yeah, but also we don't have a sort of physical space. So it's not that we have an office or so, you know what I mean? So, we are doing everything on the phone or on meetings or in Volkshotel, or we used to have a studio in Volkshotel, but that disappeared a little bit.
Yeah, during COVID it was sort of like...
it's very difficult if you have a working life that you also need to count on each other, that you need to count on each other.
Well, coming from 2016, 2018, you also have development of the collective itself, right? So that sounds to me as if you are working on professionalizing the collective in a way, maybe trying to search for an office or a studio or some ground where you can really stay. What would be important next steps to make?
Yeah, so we have thought about becoming a stichting. I don't know the English word. A foundation, but that's sometimes also not very easy because you really need this board and...
Yeah, and then you will be non-profit, so that means it also has...
So we have also thought about a space. We even signed up at the website of the gemeente. And then, I don't know, it's just all the time projects coming up, and then we're just really diving into this project, and then we're not really busy with the organizational stuff anymore, but that's really important.
But let's dream big.
Yeah, a physical space.
Let's really dream big. So I take you seriously.
Yeah, we take us also seriously. Yeah.
You know, there's a psychotherapist, there's artists, there's photographers.
Yeah, so I can tell you our dream. So we we actually thought about an app, a sort of one-fit app, but then for our art therapy sessions always in combination with mental health. And that several, artists or spaces can basically contribute to this app, and that you can, as a, let's say teenager or young adult, sign up to this app and think on a Tuesday afternoon, I want to do something tonight. Can I do something? And that is one thing, and then the other thing is the space, so that there's also our own space and external spaces.
Yeah,
I think
so
that
actually
is our...
more in the digital realm. You will probably have some space, and this is the app, so you can really connect souls to each other, and then bring them to
the physical space that we have. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things, and I feel like everything comes when it should, almost, because if we look back, we reflect and look forward to the future, I would not even think that we would be sitting here today if we would have this conversation 5 years ago. So with just putting it out there and saying it out loud and talking about it with people, I think our time will come, and I think the combination of the digital and the online and offline is where our strengths lie the most. Let's see where that goes.
Well, the seed is there.
Yeah.
You have to plant it. You have to water it. And then you need community, right? Yeah. So what if you could look at that camera and you know, give the audience, also the people here, a call to action to come to Clue, come to the ring, and do what? What do you need from us?
No, I think that this is what I meant with that. It will come at the right time. We need more people that believe in what we do, and we've had some encounters in the past where we felt like this is our chance, but it didn't go through. So this means that that was not it. So for us, it's very important to be seen in the right way. That there's a lot of potential here for our future plans. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, somebody. Yeah, go ahead.
Gotta give them.
Now, somebody who seems to steer her professional path with a strong compass, first focusing on building her own creative agency, now saying clearly, I am ready to bring forward a long-term personal initiative. Please, a warm welcome for Lamiae El Hajjaji. How does that feel when I say that you have a strong compass?
On one end, it feels a bit intense. On the other end, I think I can recognize myself partially in that. Is it a strong compass in the sense that I do everything right? Absolutely not. But it is a strong compass in the sense that I have a certain drive to keep on going and to keep on trying. So I can recognize myself in that aspect of things.
Where does that come from?
Where does that come from? That comes from years of not having it and developing it through a few assets and elements. One of them has been community. I am a big person on communities, like I know Kristel's community. I am part of 3 other communities. And then I also have a community of people around me. And I am also a big believer in the philosophy, African philosophy called Ubuntu, which is that I am because we are. I am shaped by the people around me, by the stories around me. And that has been a huge element in developing who I am. And then the other side of that is I am also religious. And that is for me a sense of peace, a opportunity to ground myself. So a combination of those 2.
Well, that sounds very rich. Can we get a big warm applause for communities like that?
Exactly.
So all these different communities, you know, you have them not only around you, you also open for the value that is inside these communities.
Yeah, exactly.
First, you studied, then you started your own creative agency. What's the name of your creative agency?
Lame?
Lame?
Yeah.
But it's not lame, not at all.
Exactly.
Why
the
that
thing
name?
is, yeah, the track of my creative career wasn't really that that one line. I actually, after being in high school, I got my associate's degree as a onderwijsassistente, aka an educating assistant, because I have immigrant parents that wanted me to have a career that will actually, get me money, get me stability. So at first I was like, okay, where can I kind of still do my creative thing and at the same time do something fun? And I thought, yeah, working with kids is a lot of fun. And after finishing that, I realized that, yes, it is a lot of fun and I still love working with kids, but there was still this itch to do more and to be creative. But the thing is that I have never been one to commit in the traditional sense to one craft and be like, okay, I'm gonna be a graphic designer who only does posters for this and that, and then let's go that. But there were people that would try to push me in that, but I'm quite stubborn, so I didn't. And then when I went to get my bachelor's degree, I also didn't study at an art school. I kind of figured out what is the closest I could get. So I studied communication and multimedia design. I literally just signed...
Wait, may I interrupt you?
Yeah, of course.
So why did you search for something that was as close to it?
You mean for the art school?
Yeah, so you said not art school, but
it's still influences from parents and kind of wanting to make them happy. Yeah, okay. And I also didn't feel like I was that deep into that space because I didn't have like a portfolio in that sense and everything. So I was like, let's see, maybe I'll sign up later. Maybe I'll just stop the other route and then go to an art school.
Who recognizes that around this table and have this feeling I don't belong there in that art school or in that design education? Yeah. I think you're not alone in that.
Yeah, I know.
Many
Definitely.
People who actually feel like, oh, that's something else. That's not something.
And I also I didn't have the confidence and the compass I had now. So I was not really like that secure to be like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I know it. I was like, how do I even start? So that's why I kind of went a different route. And then I did my graduation internship at a collective that I'm still part of called LFMC, Lowry Foley McLean.
Can you repeat it?
Lowry Foley McLean. It started with Brian Elstock, who is an artist and a children's book illustrator. He also picked a horribly difficult name, but that's another story.
Brian Elstock. Yeah.
But that was a really important phase of my career because I did my graduation internship there, and that was the first time that I entered a artistic space that also had people from all sorts of, because there's photographers, there's musicians, there's artists, there's art directors, you name it, they're there.
Illustrators, yeah.
Exactly. And it was a space where not only there was no gatekeeping, there was also no tone policing, and there was also a sense of like actually helping each other. So that was such a huge push for me because it kind of gave me that idea of like, oh wait, I don't have to, go this specific route or change myself. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So after doing that, I started out as a freelancer, just working on my own projects, and something that people noticed was that I was everywhere. Like, I don't live in the Randstad, which is like the big cities like Amsterdam, Rotterdam, The Hague, but I was there like at every single event, every single volunteering opportunity, even at the most random things that are like tech something, but I just wanted to know like, okay, what's out there, who's out there? And I also kept asking questions like to anyone I could find. It didn't matter to me what they did and how high up they were.
Can you bring us to the moment that you actually think, here I was really making something, working on a project that I really felt, hey, I belong in this community.
And that is exactly what happened after that phase really of graduating. I was able to work on my own craft, and at the same time I was like developing small bits of art that I liked, and by also working on that own craft and becoming an agency later on, I kind of figure out what kind of story I would like to tell. And that also came from working with clients, so to say, because you would have like different influences. You would see how people would go about different projects. And the moment I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, was when I made a bunch of stuff and I saw that there was a grant opportunity.
Okay.
And that is where I developed the ongoing project I have right now called Hia. Hia is Arabic for her, she, her. And it basically I basically created a multiverse, as I like to call it, a comic book with artworks, and it's still ongoing.
Artworks meaning
props from the story that also have different layers of research, culture, stories in them, and the artworks consist of a set of ceramics, a hijab that's like 2 meters long that has a certain pattern printed on it, a mirror that's like handmade, and some other works.
And how come now?
How come now? I think now it made the most sense when I knew what type of story I wanted to tell. Because I didn't like saying yes to anything when it came to my own craft. I wanted to protect that, because knowing that if I just go into a certain route, I might feel like trapped in it. But I came to a point where I realized I know my compass well enough, and that is telling stories where I don't have to tell them from like, oh, this is the thing I struggled with, or oh, this is so difficult. I like telling stories from the power and the richness that I have culturally, that I have from stories and that I have around me.
Actually, like in the beginning, you told us I'm part of so many different communities, and we all are, right? Mm-hmm. If we really think about it, if we really put some research into our own communities, we all are bicultural or multicultural, right?
Yeah.
So the book is not about being bicultural.
No,
it is
not at all.
about her.
Yeah, Because what I don't like is when somebody calls me up, and I've had this as an actual call before. They'll be like, yeah, we're working on this and that. And it's like the typical framing of like, oh, we're working on a bicultural story and we're looking for so-and-so. And then somebody literally said, we looked at that was back when I was still a freelancer. So we looked at your portfolio Instagram and we liked it. And I used to have my own personal one tagged in. And then when we clicked on your personal one, we were even more interested because, I look like this. So check.
You recognize that? That people really call you with a certain purpose, or
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? I mean, because we all know it's also hard. We're non-profit. We need to make money. We need to be able to do. How do you cope with that?
We say no.
Do you say no?
Yeah, we say no.
Yeah.
You say no.
I say no, and then I go to the collective that I just mentioned that I'm part of. I rant a lot, so I don't actually rant to that person calling me because, gotta stay professional.
Of course. Yeah.
And then I'm like, thank you.
And we talk to each other.
Exactly.
So some people from LFMC, but also from Comfy Community, we talk to each other as well, letting them know. Because I think it's also important that we talk about the positive things. So we also talk with, there's no gatekeeping. So we've worked with the same clients, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Telling them, hey, this is a really nice one. If they reach out to you, they take care of you. But also, hey, this one,
make sure you're careful. Yeah.
And do you also have that conversation with that client that actually is interested in you?
Yeah.
Maybe, for example, they just didn't know.
Oh,
so
I
they
definitely
need that different perspective, and they need that talk with
I have had those conversations many times, but at some point when your entire existence, it's like I wasn't bicultural for a year. I've been bicultural. It's
all
my
your
existence.
Life. Yeah.
So at some point you kind of have a filter for when you kind of know and when you don't. And I do try to tell them my argument as to how and what and why. But you will know after a certain point when it's genuine and when it's not.
It's a tone of craftsmanship as well. If they talk about really what you are making and doing.
Yeah.
And we mostly, or when I reply, I say, we don't need you. It feels like you need us. And in the way that it's being framed, it's not what we need to uplift our community, or it's not supportive for us at all.
And it's also what words do they use? Like if somebody approaches me and they're like, oh, you're a small beginning. And I'm like, all right. Yeah. Did you do your research, actually?
That's putting you in the scope.
Yeah, you kind of notice those patterns within that.
Wow. Well, that's very brave. Now, let's be brave. September, Glue has been there. Mm-hmm. And then things start to roll. What kind of direction will this project move into?
What kind of direction? That's a good question. Well, the project consists of the first issue of a comic book. I've written the other 3 that I still have to make.
Okay.
I'm also in talks with some people around the community and some people that I work with to see if we can make it into a short animated film. And wherever else the wind takes me.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So let's, keep having those conversations, not only to each other, also to our clients, to our public, because I think it's important. If we're really talking about shaping the future together, then we should at least do that. And our third guest isn't afraid to speak from his own heart or from what is going on in this community. The members, their hearts, and it's not always easy because they don't always dare to speak up their minds and their hearts. But he's also able to create at least 1 square meter of space of good news, mostly from the more invisible part of that community. Jeffrey Heiligers from 1 square meter. Yeah, Jeffrey, I know you for a long time now, and I've really seen you develop yourself. I think in the beginning being a little bit more shy, a bit more in the background, but doing your job in social design and really being experienced project manager also, with a totally different background in more building and other kinds of sectors that we know. But at a certain moment, you started to be more active, an activist almost. Yeah. Can you bring us back to the moment that you thought, I'm going to put my heart out there on my tongue?
It was in 2021 when the Dutch Design Week announced the theme for that year, and it had to do with inclusivity, and that really didn't sit well with me. It just really pissed me off, to be fair. And not just me. I knew a lot of people that were complaining about like big design events in general and how hard it is for us young designers to participate. It is super expensive to take part in this, and it's like I'm just not having this. I want to do something about it, and I started talking to some people around me, like Sophie, that you can see in the photo, but also Jeroen and Tijn. Tijn is the husband of Sophie. They run the studio together. And now we also have an extra member, actually, Bianca, that is helping us out. And we were like brainstorming about ideas like how can we go to the Dutch Design Week with a protest that is in a way positive, but also very out there. So...
No more critical.
Very critical.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we wanted to be critical because I think it was very necessary to make the point come across.
Yeah, in one sentence, what was the critique you had?
Well,
not only on Dutch Design Week, but I think because you were so frustrated, it was really about design.
Yeah, that in general, the like big events and the design community are not inclusive, I think.
In what way?
Well, I don't know, maybe that comes from a more personal
but that's okay,
experience.
Right?
I also studied something else before going to an art school. I studied mechanical engineering, actually finished it because I also was always told, you need to do something that makes money and you need to make sure that you can look after yourself. Hated it. I also enjoyed it, it was interesting, but then I found out about Design Academy, and that became a trauma in a way. I think a lot of people that went to schools like this experience a lot of stuff in these kind of institutes.
It can feel elite, yes.
Very, and I'm from a background with very little resources, and it wasn't until going to the Design Academy that I was kind of literally put on the spot with that being a part of me.
Hey, this differences me from the rest.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a very elite school. There's lots of kids with money, and they were really nice. Like I really enjoyed being around them. I had a good time. You were
still friends?
Yeah, you were. In
I wasn't the one with the money.
No.
Yeah?
No, but there was like a really small group of people that didn't have the resources to be part of this very elite institute, and because the institute is built on a certain quality and a certain level, it was also
internationally.
Yeah, it was kind of mandatory to do the same thing. But when I graduated, I was like super, super broke. Like I had to really save up for it. And I even had to borrow money from my parents to be able to finish the job, which is in a way quite bad. And when I then graduated, it took me about till 2021, I graduated in 2014, to speak up about this and be like, hey, this is really unfair. You're claiming something that is super unrealistic because we don't look after each other as a community, but we also create events that are so exclusive that we always see the same people, and we're not creating space for designers that are that actually have something really interesting to show, but don't have the resources to be part of an event. And this was
fast forward. I mean, I think. You will join Glue. I think that will be the 6th exhibition.
Yeah, the 6th. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really imagine this spring being pressed. You know, like, oh, I'm not really part of this. I don't have enough money. You know, I'm frustrated. Or
yeah.
Comes 1 Square Meter Collective.
Yeah.
And we just saw that picture at Van Appe.
Yeah.
Which isn't, you know, the baddest place.
No.
So what are we looking at there?
Well, we played with the idea, like, how can we make this statement? And something that people are frustrated about is the square meter prices are really high. And then we were like, okay, what if we just literally get 1 square meter, because there's a restriction in ground space, but not in height, and find as many designers as possible to showcase in that 1 square meter and share the burden of the price that we have to pay to be in a location like Van Appe Museum.
And why did these people, these designers, artists, say, yeah, we want to be part of your collection?
Well, actually, these are only 18 people, and we had to select ourselves because there was too many people that applied to us.
So then you became exclusive yourself, actually.
Yeah, in a way, but it also made it very interesting because we started this whole debate about like how can we create then a design event on that 1 square meter that is inclusive? How can we bend the system or create a new system behind how that these works are curated? So
and you didn't say, okay, let's go to 1 square meter here and then 1 square meter there, so we can put everybody in?
No, we wanted to have this Gesamtkunstwerk in like one spot to make that statement of like, we are a collective of people that all struggle with the same thing. And we had 18 people that we represented in the first year, but more than 50 people signed up. That's a lot. Like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. And were they also really supporting you in spreading the story, the critique?
In the first year, yes. I think it was kind of, it was super successful. It wasn't very, like the way that we were welcomed wasn't very positive, but that's okay, that was part of it. We knew that something like that could happen. But we do think that in the first year, we also felt like the people that we were representing, they were very driven because they were all had this same like, feeling about these big events. But then down the line, it became a little bit more complicated because we've done multiple events now, and at a certain point we even had 2 square meters, which was really nice. And we've been like organizing like programming, side programming at Sexy Say, where we actually invited people from the Dutch Design Foundation, but also from Stimuleringsfonds and like other platforms like Fashion Clash. Like, please come and talk to people and show them that you're also just people and that you're approachable and that you can talk to you and ask questions.
Like those clients that you need to have that conversation.
Because the barrier to entry feels so high for them because it's such a big institute that, they don't know which person to talk to. Okay. And then we create these really nice events, I would say, and then not many people show up.
Okay. Yeah. So meaning, yes, we agree with this critique. Yeah. Yes, we want to be part of maybe a solution to build these Gesamtkunstwerken.
Yeah, but don't stick my face or my voice to it.
That's something different.
Yeah. But that was
how do you deal with that? If you did you feel disappointed?
I think last year, because last year we decided to not have an exhibition, as in like the 1 square meter exhibition that we're known for. Yeah. But we did have a space for conversation where we built a confession booth where people could come and talk about their experiences exhibiting work. And then no one wanted to go into the booth, which was problematic.
You recognize that, or
we had an idea in the past about a confession booth.
I also made one.
She also made one.
Booth.
And then people need to get in.
Yeah. And then we were like, will people really get in? And then we ended up with something else for Rijksmuseum, which was a bit more on a. Yeah. But we can understand with
Yeah, we did have like a QR code on the side, so you could like scan it and fill out the questionnaire online anonymously. The confession booth was also anonymously, but a very big observation there, and something that people literally said, it's like, I don't want to say out loud what I think about those institutions because that's going to damage my career. Okay. And I think that's quite interesting because there is a huge fear in people to speak up.
And now, you will be part of GLUE.
Yeah.
Do you have the same critique on GLUE? Or why are you joining GLUE? Because you said we're not joining another one, but we are joining GLUE. Why do you exhibit there?
I had a nice conversation with David about this as well. I think what GLUE does is really special and nice in a way because they select 5 people to curate a group of people that they just need to work with. Yeah. It's similar how we work. We have an independent jury, and they tell us with which people we have to work. And I think working like that and having different people each year that are selecting other people creates space for voices that are not heard or seen by others.
And above all, it's also very nice for me as a moderator, but also for my colleagues, program makers, that we actually really meet people that these last episodes, I really met people I didn't know before. So for the people from GLUE organization, I want to have a big round of applause for you now. Yeah. Indeed. It's really, really alternatives from the unexpected. But I can imagine, and we'll get to that later, it's not only easy. I can imagine to meet people that are not usually in your community. You really have to find a different way to work with them. So you agree what Glue is doing. It brings opportunities. What will you do then in September?
So we decided to not reinvent the wheel. So we're going to do our typical one square meter collection of a collective exhibition. Yeah. And what we would like to do is invite the sticky curated participants to show a fraction of their work in the 1 square meter that we are putting in the Jordaan.
Yeah, really supporting these 5.
Yeah, and also because you're talking about connecting design, we're literally creating that connection point where all these 30 people come together and where we can tell people about what Glue is doing and send them to the actual project.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. And if you can take the camera and give a call, give the audience, people watching, a call to action, what would it be?
Show up.
Show up.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important because I think we tend to complain a lot as a community, like about things that are not well organized or that we disagree with or whatever. But on the other side, we're also quite egocentric. It also has to do with the way we are educated, I think, within the institute.
Fighting for your spot.
Exactly. It's almost like having to become a pop star. Yeah, it's quite a harsh environment. But I don't know, we need to show up when people are organizing stuff because there is a lot out there, but you need to do the work yourself. You already said that. You need to be at every event. You need to show your face. You need to talk to people. Because if you're not doing that, it's not just going to end up on your plate ready for you to eat. You need to put the work in yourself. And if there are people that are willing to help or you can go to events or whatever, go there. Because if we're talking about community, I seriously question if the design community at this moment really exists. That's my opinion. Because I feel like we take a lot. When we're invited to be here at the table, we are here. But when we are here, when other people are speaking, we are not here. We should also be here because we're all part of that same thing. And I think a community is about giving and taking, and it should be in balance. But I feel like as a design community now, we're taking more and complaining more than that we're actually giving back. And we have a lot of power.
How does that feel within your own communities?
It's a notion I think about.
Many times more.
Yeah. I will think about this. I don't have...
Yeah, of course, that's okay. And you?
I definitely agree with that. And I also think that, speaking of like things that are important, I also encourage... Because what I've often heard is like, oh, I didn't know so-and-so existed. But what you notice in a lot of design communities, agencies, is that they keep fishing from the same pool. Like, if you're like, oh, this is comfortable, it's quick, let me go here, then of course you're not going to know how people exist. And also to shift your narrative, because just because you didn't know they existed doesn't mean that they're not a small designer or a hidden gem, because they could be somebody you just don't know, but they're their own full person.
Yeah. Anyway, what is small? When is somebody small? When is somebody big?
Yeah. And what is community?
Yeah. I mean, what is a community? Yeah.
I agree with him calling something a community from and now I'm just going to say it like a consuming perspective. It's not a community. If you get a newsletter saying, hey, join our community and get 10% discount, I'm just saying something. This is when I'm now really talking about the pink washing words and also trends, and people are very vulnerable for certain words to want to be part of something, and that's why I totally agree. And if you put another word for design with something else, it's the same question. If you are only coming to take, and are you using other people's community to come and take, or are you really investing and giving back and making sure they're supported?
Yeah, and when it comes to that give and take, something that I find very, very important within the design community, whether it's getting curated at a space or working on a project, what I've noticed is that people have this scarcity mindset. So instead of thinking in abundance, like there's plenty of art, there's plenty of opportunities, for example, somebody will come to me and be like, hey, I have this and this project. If I'm not available, I'm going to give you, if I can, 10 other people.
Yeah.
And that won't mean that I will never work with that person again, or, oh no, now I've lost. No, that means that you're giving back, because you don't know what that name then can do for you. So I think that's really important to like stopping the gatekeeping and like the whole like, oh, let's keep it tight knit.
So this is actually a call for a revaluation. What actually Glue is doing, really bringing other people into your community, really giving them the space to bring in all the other people you didn't know yet, and then really letting go. That's hard, but I think this is the call that you are giving us, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, it's time to introduce you to our very last. Yeah, we can
Definitely.
Thank you, Rosa. Thank you. Time to introduce you to our very last curated sticky participant. Literally and figuratively, brings our hands together for how to live and how to work together. More importantly, not only weaving fabrics, weaving our voices together. Mm-hmm. Please, a very last warm welcome for textile artist Rosa Smits. Rosa, when we were talking just before this venue, you said, well, yes, it's about, my work is about crafts. Yes, my work is about technique weaving. But more importantly, just like what we've just been talking about, it is about weaving those voices, bringing people together, having conversations. And the weaving, the technique, is just a method. It's a vehicle, right? Maybe can you show us 3 examples quickly of what you do with your work?
Yeah, well, you can see them here, literally.
Yeah, maybe take us along.
Yeah. This is just one shot. It's too much of a story to explain, maybe. Here we were in Leeds with a project Weaving Voices. We were a group of 5 people in a middle of in the city, and we just wove with participants for 3 days, and we sang every day. At 5, there was a moment where we would stop weaving and we'd all come together and sang, and whoever wanted would join.
Wow.
And that Weaving Voices was an Erasmus project, so that was like Leeds was a place where we did that, and we did that also in Hungary, in France, in Germany. We were singing, weaving, and exploring how to merge singing and weaving and bring that to communities. There you have that word again, communities. Yeah. Sometimes it's like a community. It's a bit of a silly word. It's more like, you bring something and you try to create a momentarily community. You bring people together. And that works very well with weaving because you have lots of time to talk and also to sing. Here we did that with Weaving Voices in the south of Hungary, in a really small village. And that work is now hanging in the municipality there.
Yeah, right. It's still there?
Yeah. In the municipality, in the town hall. That's like the only public space they have, and a bar, but it was very grungy, so didn't go for that. This we did in Bureau Potjesweg in Slotervaart. We were invited to do a residency there to do something about all the flats. You see it actually behind the work. Those people, they had to move out, and indeed those flats now don't exist anymore. So we thought about gentrification, and we thought about talking to people about these changes in the neighborhood and how do people feel about that, and are they welcoming new people? Are they getting along? Are they not? So we brought this building fence literally that looked always so awful when you see it, and we wove with clothes of people through that, and we also recorded people to ask about their stories. And in the end it became this very colorful kind of activistic building fence, which still stands in between other boring building fences in Slotervaart. So sometimes I still see it.
Well, I can actually really already start to imagine that, you know, indeed, like they came up with a format which was called art therapy sessions, and then people find different, actually, purposes for different reasons, to bring that to a kind of city where there's some kind of challenges, and then depending on the kind of people that come to your venue to really join the sessions, you have a different conversation, right? Different value also bringing up. And then you go to another place in Amsterdam, here somewhere, and you have a totally different theme to talk about. But can you maybe bring us into those conversations? What are the most valuable moments for you?
Sure, yeah. There is this photo of this man that has his hands like that. It was made in Leeds. I think it's the one after it. Yeah. So he understood the concept of what we were doing there, and he really insisted on weaving this number. It says 721, and it was the 21st of July in Hong Kong, and it was an event where one group of people attacked another group of people, and the police came very, very late, so all the violence had already been taking place. And this man was so disappointed by that and felt so unsafe, mostly because of the police arriving so late. So he felt that they were like part of that instead of protecting them. And that was for him the trigger to move away from Japan. And I found it quite powerful that he understood this concept and he immediately took it to tell his own story. That was something that he wanted to express, and there was he wasn't pleasing anyone, you know. He just did that for him, and yeah, it's just quite powerful.
Yeah. So first of all, you actually created the space for him to come and feel vulnerable, to dare to feel vulnerable, actually, to really speak up and to then create something like an image together with you. And then after what? What's your role?
Yeah, perhaps more a facilitator.
Yeah.
Also, most people have never woven. Sometimes people think weaving is making clothes. They just don't know what it is. So it's also a lot like giving a crash course in how to do it. Sometimes there are people with disabilities in their hands and they cannot reach. So it's also like adjusting or working with whatever is there. So how can you still make it possible for somebody to join who cannot grab the threads? For instance, I had that once, and then that person was very good in crocheting, so she crocheted a yarn, and then I wove that in, and then she was still very happy that she could join. And for one person, also the weave, it like builds up, so at some point it just becomes higher and higher. So in the end, you have kids standing on a chair. I'd once put the loom upside down for a woman in a wheelchair, so she could still weave her part, and yeah. So it's very on the spot, houtje touwtje facilitation. Yeah.
And we were talking to them about being non-profit, not always having this feeling that people really take you seriously in what you do. How is that for you?
Yeah, it definitely. Oh, I don't always like it when people say that what I do is very cute for the community or something like that. Or I've also been invited to do this at weddings or at, that's just not what I want to do, you know. I mean, what I am interested in doing is working with marginalized groups, going to another place where I, in a way, link myself towards the environment and towards the people there and the materials also by doing this.
Because what kind of materials do you use?
Yeah, often what's around.
Yeah.
So it's like in that weaving Bosjesweg in Slotervaart, that was with the clothes from the residents there who would have to move out. And then in Hungary, we worked with threads from Hungary, and this is in Morocco, and we work with Moroccan wool, so it's often... Okay. And sometimes it's dyed with the plants of the environment as well, like in in these works. There's a lot of natural dyeing with the local plants. I forgot what was your question.
Yeah, so I mean, it's very clear. You feel I'm doing something serious. I really believe in bringing people together and working with this weaving technique, but actually as a meaning to conversate with each other.
Yeah.
And to create images, to feel you can give people a voice.
Yeah.
And then to create a story together, actually, a new story, right? Maybe if you dream out loud, what would you love to work on in the near future?
For me, it's also a good question. Where would I like to work, or with whom? Because I'd really love going towards an unknown place and just working there with whatever I have and whoever is there. I really love that.
Yeah.
I would love to make bigger works. That's just, something. I really like it when it's like at least your size, or imagine that you could make like a whole room or like literally a space where people could enter. I would really like to work on that. So that's quite a challenge. How can you scale, and how can you then still include people, or also like physically, how would you bring a loom around, or can you then attach pieces, or how would that have to look like? So.
And how are you going to work your way towards that dream? Not knowing place yet, but...
Well, I'm also gonna study for a year now. Okay. I'm gonna study international artist education in Artes, in which we will work with in local places in Arnhem, but also for a while in Morocco, and that's a place where I already work quite a lot.
Why do you need to still, in what way will that contribute to what you're already doing?
I think the international aspect, I really like that in the education, that we go there, and actually now we will go to Rabat, and I work with very rural women in Morocco that are really not in the city, and we will work with different topics around migration, and I think also include pedagogical theories and peace building, and those are things I would like to learn more about. Yeah. So I would also, besides aesthetically, I would like to create a space or a large work, but in terms of with which people would I like to work, I would like to challenge myself more and to go towards people that really maybe not only have a voice, but are not in a place where they really feel they even are in the right state of mind to express themselves. Like, for instance, if you are migrating, or if you have a brain injury, or I will be interested in working with that. And I think that what I do, the weaving itself, it's really softens people up. So a lot of people give back to me that it's quite, in a way, healing for them. I see people sharing more genuine stories, but also I see myself and other people listening better. I think when the hands are already occupied, then you have the space, So, I think it has the power to. I think those are really nice ingredients to take to such groups.
And where can we find you during Glue?
In de Waag.
In de Waag.
Yeah.
So we need to bring our communities there.
Collective. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and come weave with me, please.
Come weave with me, please.
Yeah.
Can we get a big round of applause?
Do you want to share a song? Also?
Well, we have been listening to different stories, but very well connected through collaboration, community, having a strong compass. Also knowing what story you don't want to tell, so that people really know, okay, we know that, at the border somewhere, this is what it is, but we actually are talking about something very serious. It's not something that communities do. No, it is about serious topics, right? As you say, Rosa, and you say, I am not that bicultural lady who's trying to find a way. No, I'm just a person who's really good at storytelling, and this is what I want to talk about. I can imagine that you will already bring everybody together at the One Square exhibition. will you also tell a story, a different story about all those people together? Because that's also a multidisciplinary job, as they bring different people together. You will also bring a lot of different people together. How will you deal with that, Jeffrey?
I think it just goes kind of like hand in hand with how we exhibit, because every year when we had people in the One Square Meter, we had to know what was in there and represent them and talk about their work. So I don't think that it's going to be different this year. But this year we are really, it is going to be like more like that sounds a bit dull, like an information point, like a connection point where we can tell where these projects are, to have the conversation in person with people.
Why don't we dream out loud? Why don't we, you have this already, this image, it's there, we're creating this exhibition. How many curated sticky participants are there, David?
29.
29. So you need to bring together 29 very, how would you call them, creative souls with an own story. Why don't we create a moment to really celebrate that you actually are doing that? How would we do that? How would you imagine a celebration moment?
That's hard. I don't know. That would be really nice, but I don't know how to.
I have a suggestion. Yeah. Maybe we can make a tower like a Jenga of all the design things on top of each other. Very dangerous.
And with a sign, please touch it.
Jenga, and then what?
No, I said with a sign, please touch it.
Yeah. Okay. And you, how would you imagine those 29 together?
29 together. I mean, we could also just force everyone to start right there. Just, instead of being like, okay, everybody goes at their own pace, they figure it out. That's where we're going to start.
He's going to stand there with glue.
Exactly.
We will all be moderating, at least trying to moderate it. And maybe the audience. How would you imagine? 29 people really don't know each other yet that much. How could we bring a nice moment of celebration together?
I really trust Jeffrey, to be honest.
I think the key is always with the exhibition, we take a lot of time to, we get the works, we have to work with that, but then we have to curate what it's going to look like and how we set it up. And I think it sparks curiosity with people because it's like a weird mix of different kind of works that in a way don't really go together, but they have to go together. And that creates a space where people are super curious and start talking and ask about each individual thing that is in the tower. And that's how we normally activate people to go and talk to the actual person that we are representing.
The only thing that could be nice, but we're always about creating games or creating tasks that you need to connect the name to the object in the
connect the face to the artwork.
Yeah, that's sort of been a little card.
I also have to think about one art therapy session that we once did with the painting. So everyone had to paint, and then at one point, at one moment, later, it was like, okay, we're going to run, and everybody had to run and then stop, and then you just had to continue with another one's artwork. So you had to let go your own artwork and had to continue with another one's artwork, which is really... So maybe we should just all swap. And continue with
swap?
another...
But let's ask our community here. Some people know you, probably. Maybe there are also some unexpected guests. Who knows what it's like to let go? The first, can you express? Maybe I'll run to you. Wait. No. I'm sorry, I have another mic here, and we're going to take about only 5 extra minutes of your time because then we're rounding up. I think I have to stand still here because otherwise it's not interesting for the people at home. But who experienced it? Working really hard on something, a design, a piece of art, a concept, a format, a critique, and then you had to let go. And other people had to go around and develop that story. Who has this experience? No? Okay, then let me ask you, who of you are parents in the audience? 1, 2,
3.
Here.
3? Oh, also here. It's letting go, right? How do you do that as a mother?
I live really through my heart with everything. And of course it struggles through time. When you're getting older, you look all the phases you are going or you went through, you look at in a different way. So I don't know how I do it. So
Maybe the trust is also growing?
sure, yeah, and then also the recognition from the people who loves you is really nice. It's also very helpful.
Okay, who once created an object and then put it in public space, exhibited something in a space, a museum? Yeah, there, I'll go back there. So how did you experience that?
I've been an artist for over a decade, so it's become more and more of a mundane, normal experience. But the first time you do it is very awkward and very naked feeling. Yeah.
And how did you deal with that?
Just doing it. There's no other way to go about it. You do it.
Thank you very much. What's your name?
Elise.
Elise. And for the people who are here in the audience, who visited Glue more often than once? 1, 2, yeah, 3. Who once initiated a project during Glue, maybe hosted a hub or something like that? Yeah, there in the back. We have somebody here. I'm running to you. So wait. Who are you?
I'm Pieter Nel. I was once a host and I showed my own house. And that was quite an experience because it is your private space. And I had so many people walk through it that was, it was nice. I was proud in a way, you know, that they had the interest. But at the other hand, they all invaded in my private space. And that was quite, difficult feeling. And I had somewhere in the house hung up a little sign, okay, till here and not further. But of course, people do go further. But anyway, yeah, it was an interesting feeling. And I have been thinking about, should I do that again? But I haven't done it again yet.
But maybe you will.
Maybe sometime.
Why would you do it again?
Well, I did it because I wanted to give designers that worked on the house a platform to show their work. And there were different artists that had done parts to it. So it was an opportunity to really show their work in the space where it was meant for, and it was used already. So I thought it was a good podium in that sense. Yeah.
Well, it was indeed a very unexpected place to come there because it was not that big. But you really, like the 1 square meter, really created a space, a very beautiful space there. I want to actually finish this very last episode with a round because I honestly believe in alternatives from the unexpected. And I'm hoping that you do too, that you find it indeed important that Glue is creating this space. And I'd like to ask why. Why is it important? In these times, geopolitical earthquakes going on, alternatives from the unexpected. Why does it matter to you? And I'm going to start with my audience, and then I come back to my speakers before we round up. Why does it matter to you? Alternatives from the unexpected. We go to the next. But Alan, why does it matter to you? Alternatives from the unexpected.
I think it's very important to broaden the view, to tap into new bubbles. Bubbles are the same as communities. It's a very overused word, but it is very important we are very, very separated, and to really bring all those different parties, all those different languages, people together, but also show the difference, to show all these different people, all these different projects, designers in the community, and how incredibly beautiful it is to be different and to have these different voices.
Thank you very much. We'll get back to you. So keep thinking about that question. This is me. I go round. Sorry. So why does it matter to you? These alternative, perspectives.
I don't know yet. I need to think about it.
So I'll come back to this section here. You're here. Why does it matter to you?
I would definitely agree with what you're sharing. I think it's important, or for me it would be important, to also be able to look outside of your community and see where there's more value than your because I think as a creative you're really focused on creating that value also and working on that outlet, and that kind of potentially narrows your vision for what else is there. Thank you very much. You can also say something like, it's fun, you know? You can also say that. So here, we go here.
I just think everyone is so different, so I just need to find something to fit myself, and that's alternative is a really great way to,
Thank you, yeah. Like we said, you know, hey, I actually fit in here. You know, there's many people so different. I already was here. I didn't go here yet. Alternatives from the unexpected. Why is it important?
I think because it's not really about only highlighting like the best designers and stuff, but more about expanding the borders, the margins of what we know design is in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. Can we get a big round of applause already for our audience here for participating? And here are my speakers. Why is it important to create space for the unexpected?
Yeah, it's difficult. Oh,
Go.
Well, I was thinking about it, but I also find it quite difficult to answer. But maybe for me, it's also a little bit about what you said, Jeffrey, like going beyond your own self. Once I did a project, for instance, with Makers Unite. I don't know if anyone knows the platform.
Yep.
And we were sort of creating an art project around newcomers. And we were just sitting there as sort of 4 privileged art students thinking about how we were going to shake up this whole idea that people have around newcomers. But we were just constantly sitting with the 4 of us here, and all the newcomers were working on those saving fests over there. And then we lost it, and then we were like, okay, we're just going to let it go, and we're just going to sit with them, and we're just going to make those fests. And back then, by then, it really started to get shape, because I had some ideas about, for instance, Islam, or about womanhood, or some topics that live in that culture. And I was talking to this man, and this man said, I have 5 wives, and I was just talking about it, and we were definitely not agreeing, but it was so nice to have this conversation, and we were so respectful to each other, and even though we were not agreeing, we still felt that there was space for sort of alternative ideas in that sense.
Yeah.
And that is where also our confession booth came up. And then it was, that idea is really important, to just go beyond yourself and maybe not always agree with what someone else has to say, but also, maybe it's good for him and for his land and for all the children that he needs to work on that land and everything. So it's not something I maybe agree with, but it's needed or so. So I think in that sense, to go beyond yourself and your selfish area and bubble, also
enriching your empathy.
Yeah.
I think adding to that, because you mentioned geopolitical state of the world, we've seen what happens when people only get their news, get their art, get their stories from one source.
Yeah.
They create this certain image of people. And there's a quote by Nina Simone that I love, and that is, it is an artist's duty to reflect the times. But I do not believe that you can reflect the times if the only times you're working on is, what am I doing? How am I feeling? So it is really important, and I would even say dangerous not to figure out what else is out there and what bubble am I in. Because even if I'm sitting here and I mentioned, I know 3 communities, I know I'm still in a bubble. I just need to figure out what else is out there.
Yeah. And we started to write a draft for Blue, and we also wrote in there that art shouldn't be a luxury but an urgency.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the unexpected, it's not like talking about all the privileges in the country we live in and everything has layers.
There should be spaces to connect with each other.
Yeah, so but we were talking about the art to create those spaces, right? It's not just a matter of bringing all those people together and then
figure it out.
What happens.
Yeah, but at the moment you get that space, it shouldn't be a luxury. It should still be something that you keep moving and like Jeffrey mentioned as well, to keep making your point come across And that is also the part of showing up. And I always say, who's on the field? Well, are the people talking from the highest tower, talking about needs for other people, and I've never seen them around, for example.
Yeah.
So I think the unexpected is also right here at this table within this conversation at the moment.
Thank you very much. Jeffrey, Rosa, to round up?
Yeah, I think we obviously need very many alternatives. We need that many ideas. We need to hear and see them. And we are, of course, already overexposed with information and images every day. But that is not the same as like talking to somebody that also has a project there, that has a history and has a visual aspect perhaps, or maybe you can listen to it or you can feel it. Like, we need to experience these things. And I think Glue gives that opportunity for people to come and enter these other worlds. And then even a world that exists of all of our other worlds, apparently, and that's then another way of seeing and another. And then I hope some cross-contamination happens, and that then generates even more new ideas. That's just what we need.
Thank you. Jeffrey?
Yeah, for me, it's something that comes quite natural also in my practice. I mean, Lamiae Collective is one of the things that I've done, but I've also done other collections and things where I always have this focus on making a piece or a story democratic, involving other people, because I think a lot of the designers out there also do a lot based on assumptions, and I think that's a way to break away from assumptions, is by actually talking to people that are going to use the product, or people that are making the product, or maybe getting rid of the product when it's not necessary anymore. I think it's important to stay open-minded and learn from the people that you're designing for as well, because I think sometimes we forget to take them into consideration when we're creating something for them.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to round up the series of episodes about the craft, actually, of creating space for alternatives, for different perspectives, which now we agree on is indeed very, very important. And above all, it's fun. It was fun for me to meet people I didn't know yet. And I've been around so long, and I actually never have it that I meet all these different people that I just don't know yet. So thank you very much for joining. I also want to give a big round of applause for Stimuleringsfonds, for Fonds AFK, but also for Glue organization. Thank you very much for making this happen.